So I'd like to introduce you to Matt Ashman. He's from Khipu. He's not only a cybersecurity expert, really, this time he is, but he's also a very loyal sponsor to as audit of the company and our platinum sponsor for this event. Please welcome Matt.
Hello. Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Funny, whenever you pick up a mic, you just want to start beatboxing and start singing, isn't it? Anyway, I'm fine with this. So firstly, yeah, thank you very much, University of Johannesburg and AS Audit for allowing us to exhibit and present at NATE. NATE is our favourite event of the year. It gets us to meet some fantastic customers and potential customers and share our experiences around cybersecurity. Am I going to get any slides up? Thanks. As you can see, I'm wearing a UFS top. I'm not a member of UFS, but I don't know if anyone knows Chris Lindstrom at University of Free State. Because I'm using some examples of some of our customers, he's had to say that if I'm using UFS, I have to wear one of his t-shirts. And it's bloody cold as well, so I'll... Oh, yes, sorry. Yeah, sure, okay. It's user experience. So, if there's any security guys here today, are there any IT security teams here? Yes, this gentleman up there. Nice hair. The challenge is if with too much security, if you imagine you got all your students starting, they're coming in at start of term and saying you must have a single device, you must have McAfee only, you can only have a Windows device, you have to be patched to a certain level, you're restricted on internet access, or in some cases not allowed BYOD. You must change your passwords every hour. You can imagine the stress on the students. It's an absolute disaster. So when you have too much security, that actually enforces a very poor experience for the user. And this is one of the guys at Northwest University just giving his thumbs down disapproval. The other option is too much relaxed security. So initially, what a fantastic user experience. It means I can plug anything to the environment, I can download anything, I can go to any website. So initially the experience is fantastic, but eventually with malware, viruses, it ends up causing a poor user experience. This is Stefan Bodenhorst at Northwest also giving us the thumbs down. So what is the challenge? The challenge is to have cost-effective and a correct approach to network and cybersecurity to equal a better user experience to your users. And the funds up from members of the Northwest University team. So just to put some context around this, if you do a search on the internet around attacks, there are attacks happening every day, whether or not it's phishing, ransomware, malware. Only last week, a university in Calgary had to pay $20,000 to ransomware because they had 1 week of downtime and it worked out cheaper to pay them off than actually have a network continuously down. In December last year, Janet is the UK equivalent of Tenet. Again, they had a very serious attack. It was so bad it lasted 2 weeks. And to give you an idea of what was going on is the updates of what was happening were being shared with all the Twitter followers. So every time they changed something to update their users and their customers, the cyber attackers were also watching the same Twitter feed and constantly changing their threat vector. So every time they made a change, they made an attack. So it took them 2 weeks to eventually resolve this problem. If you think about it, Janet has 18.5 million devices connected to it and 800 sites. So it's a challenge that everyone's facing every day. So we've been working in universities now for 17 years, and that's across the globe. Our biggest success in the UK and in South Africa. And each one of these institutions have to deal with security in very different ways because you all have the same challenges. You have thousands of students coming in, different devices, different operating systems. It's a challenge. So what we've done, we've chosen 3 key customer use cases. We have more, but what we feel are very relevant to the whole user experience and improved cybersecurity. So the first one is obviously networking. Everyone seems to forget that networking is very important. Without a network, you can't have cybersecurity. So obviously networking is a key part of the overall solution. Proactive malware protection, UFS, and cybersecurity aware training at Northwest University. So how do we do it? So the best thing is what we say is ask our customers. So Steve Neggy is the Associate Director of University of West London, and he was under so much stress. I mean, as every university probably faces, there's constant drive to reduce capital and constant drive to reduce operational costs, and at the same time have to provide more services. He said to me when we was putting these slides together, he goes, it's funny, isn't it? Whenever a new build goes up, the budget for the IT is next to nothing, and they've still got to provide this fantastic service to all their staff and students. It's phenomenal. So Heartspace was the name of the building. Lots of pressures around to provide more services, and their racks, their cabinets were completely populated, so you actually had no room for anything in there. So stress, and more stress. So I don't know if anyone attended the NATE session last year, but my colleague Guy Germany presented a fairly new technology known as a virtual chassis. And what a virtual chassis is, it's 48 port high density 10 gig switches that are shared together to create a virtual environment for networking. And it was the only option he had, literally because of the lack of cabinet space and the lack of budgets he had to do. It was the only way he could try and come up with a solution which met their goals. So we put forward a proposal to simplify their entire environment, which actually meant collapsing his traditional monster chassis into lovely small form factor switches, and at the same time we removed his distribution layer to make it simplified to manage. That's the actual network itself for the technical people here. Nice and simple, nice high density core, going straight to the edge, no distribution layer, nice and simple to maintain. So what are the benefits? As part of his review, he had to provide a justification for this spend and the return on investments, and the facts are pretty amazing. So if you think about it, you've got a big chassis, and then you're going to collapse into a small form factor environment. So if you think about the savings, you've got rack space savings, so 49U, 78%, which is pretty amazing. And to go with that, you obviously have the power, electricity for the switches, the environmental power for your data centers. The port bandwidth increase was phenomenal, because if you think how the 1U switches work, they're all horizontal. So you've got your high density, whereas the traditional blades are vertical, and you can have 12 ports or that type of density. Operational savings, and again, because you're maintaining large chassis, it's a cost to do that. It's very expensive. So he had a 70% reduction in his operational cost. So it was a phenomenal project, and he'd love to be here, but unfortunately he's too busy trying to get this new building sorted out. But the end result is happy staff, happy students, and less stressful IT team. Any questions on that so far? Okay, good. So if you're interested in actually seeing how your current core would compare to a virtual environment, this URL here, you literally go to this website, you can put in your size of your chassis, how many fiber ports, how many copper ports, and within 4 hours we'll send you through an analysis showing your current environment to a virtual core, if you're interested, of course. So the next one is UFS. So UFS, and again, I'm sure everyone's having the same challenges. So continuous malware, zero-day attacks coming in all the time. They're getting so complex now that it's getting difficult for the IT team to resolve. And if you've got a massive environment like UFS, it's very, very time consuming. The amount of problems they've had, again, with people clicking on URLs which look like they're real, downloading invoice Word documents which are also malware, everyone's suffering from that challenge, and a constant drive to provide security, but at the same time, do not disrupt the user experience. And when Chris approached us with this project, he said, look, how do we increase security without affecting the user experience? So what we did is, as all universities here, of course, have thousands of devices. So they thought, okay, we won't look at the devices first. We'll look at the perimeter. How do we address the perimeter? That's probably our first point of area to focus on. So they invested in what we call next generation security platform at the perimeter to give them complete visibility and control of the users, the applications, the websites, whether or not they're threats or not. And once you have that picture and you proactively can see this, you can then start providing control. As part of the service, we have a platform called Threat Intelligence in the Cloud. And what that is, it's a 24/7, 365 worldwide environment who are constantly analyzing malware attacks. URL, obviously identifying URLs, everyone can do that. But at the same time, collapsing the web proxies. Now, some people still haven't actually collapsed their web proxies as yet, and obviously the benefits are phenomenal, but we include that as part of the overall project. So, what were the benefits? So, the clear benefits were really around automation, because you've got these massive environments. You need an automated approach to identifying malware and protecting against zero-day attacks. At the same time, control phishing websites. I'm sure everyone here has massive problems with people going to these websites which look real and unfortunately sharing credentials. It's kind of a common problem which is affecting not just people at work, but also people at home. Proxies, which is obviously a brilliant bonus in itself because you get all the issues around device not being able to support proxies and cost savings, reduced malware infections, and I think the key part of this is an improved user experience without the user actually knows happening in the background. So how does it work? So Khipu Network, so we are a networking cybersecurity company. We are the only company in the world that is by royal appointment to the Queen. So we provide networking security services to Buckingham Palace and across all of the Queen's estate. As you can imagine, people want to hack us. We are on everyone's radar. Everyone wants a piece of the action from us because if they can tell that we cracked and penetrated Khipu networks, obviously that could go on the news. So we have to ensure that we are fully protected. So one of our engineers took these slides where we were actually attacked from a malware. So 4 weeks ago, the email was received at 4:45. It attached a lovely bit of malware, which was a typical Word document called shipping. And again, we, as much as we train our staff, unfortunately, some still open up the obvious email, which everyone does, unfortunately. So in our user interface, we can see straight away that the file was received at 4:45. Initially, it was a Microsoft Office, and then it suddenly started changing. So we started seeing there's something wrong with that. It turned to a Microsoft Word. The file was then sent up to the Threat Intelligence Cloud for assessment. Now, within our dashboard, you can see straight away that once this file had reached the Threat Intelligence Cloud, by 15:47, it identified it as malicious, which is actually 3 minutes 50 seconds. So by the time the file came in, just under 4 minutes, we identified that is malicious. Looking closer, just for your reference, you can see that the file that is trying to be evasive. So every here, the file is actually changing every 2 to 3 seconds. So it's trying to change its attachment so people won't spot it's actually malware. So at this time, our system was set to protect our environment after 15 minutes. So once the Trojan had been identified, we actually practically started blocking it at just after 1 o'clock. So to give you an indication of what the comparison is, so the engineer at the time was actually looking at Virus Total to see what the AV vendors were doing, and 1 out of 56 vendors actually spotted that there was had support for this outbreak. The scary thing is, 5 days later, only 31 out of the 56 AV vendors actually had a patch for it, which is pretty scary. So the window of opportunity. So having some type of threat intelligent cloud service for identifying Word documents, which could be malware or whatever comes through, can actually reduce your window of opportunity down to up to 15 minutes. Well, the system that we use, the latest update 2 weeks ago, allows us to block within 5 minutes. So potentially, if you do have to have this type of technology, and there's lots of technologies out there that do this level of service, you could potentially be stuck within 5 days. Any questions on that? Yes. We detect it and we block it. Yeah, sure. So I think you asked, what do I do? Sorry.
My question is, do you only detect and block the threat? You don't really care where it comes from.
Yeah, so we detect and we block it. I mean, we in our user interface, you'll see roughly using the IP address and some information. We can see where it's coming from, but we don't really. We just block it and then provide a report on it. We don't really care too much where it's coming from unless it's sent from an unknown source. Any other questions? Okay, cool. Thank you. So Northwest University. So as I mentioned previously, so this is our third and final use case. So every environment, and this is probably quite factual, the strongest part of security, but also the weakest part of security, are your users. And the only way of trying to come to a way of providing awareness is constant training. Now, Northwest University approached us, and similar, I like to keep repeating myself, is the same sort of things every university focuses, thousands and thousands of phishing emails. Fortunately, people see had a busy day at work or had some personal issues or might be hungover the night before, come in and they look and they see an email which looks potentially real, they click on it and then ransomware, malware, complete disaster. Typical one is invoices. So Locky, I'm sure everyone's had to deal with Locky, spear phishing attacks, and various other ways of trying to come through and get clicked on and cause massive pain. So what they've done is their first review is they want to understand really how good or how bad are their users from phishing. So we create what we call a simulated phishing campaign. Now, a simulated phishing campaign is where we work with them and come up with a fairly straightforward email which looks like it's coming from the Northwest University. We create a phishing website for them to capture details, and we provide an awareness email which then provides a bit of education. So after this 600 emails goes out, we then provide a report, and then we gives them some justification to actually provide more training. But they need to understand, first of all, how bad or how good is their environment. So create a nice simple email. This person doesn't exist, and nor does this domain, and literally just asking the users to reset their Google accounts. Nice, straightforward. A nice simple phishing website. So again, people could put their username and password details in if they are successfully phished. And if they are, then the university sends out what we call an education email, which explains to them it was a test. Please click on this link, and it was a nice little video which talks about phishing and what you should look out for. Now, unfortunately, I can't provide the actual results from the test. I don't think they'll be very pleased with me, but I can say that the benefits and the results were phenomenal, because what it's doing, it's showing the current state of your environment. You're saying, you know, how good or bad are my users? You know, what sort of level of training can I do? So from a single phishing campaign, people start talking and saying, oh, you know, did you see that email? Yes, I saw that. And the awareness starts sharing with the university. It's very, very powerful. So as a result, yesterday, we were finally awarded the additional phishing campaign. So we're going to continually work with the university to improve awareness, to reduce the risk of attacks, obviously help around prevention of malware. But really what this sort of does, it demonstrates that universities are proactively coaching their users to protect themselves, because cyber attacks are not just at work, they're also at home. So if you are seen to proactively help them, then it's going to be a win-win. So again, improve security and enhance the user experience. Now I do have a good example which I will show you, and it's a UK one you'll be happy to know. So this is a university in the UK in the southwest, again, similar sort of things. Now what happened here is there was a successful spear phishing attack. So what happened is the attacker somehow did a spear phishing email to the procurement team of the university, and all of the suppliers' details were sent to this attacker. The attacker then simulated the university's email address, which is purchasing-services, and slightly changed. So where we have .ac.uk, they changed it to ac.uk. Now this email went out to all the suppliers saying there was some fraudulent behaviour. What actually happened was an email went out to the supplier about printing. So they asked for, can I have a quote for thousands of reams of paper? printers, toners, so on and so forth. The happy, excited salesperson, well, fantastic, sent the quote through. The PO came from this random email address. They sent all of this £200,000 worth of equipment to an address and completely gone. So, and this is happening everywhere. I mean, it's phenomenal. It's worldwide issues. So they approached us and they said, okay, we need to do some education. So even though the email wasn't directly the university's response issue, but obviously it came from universities. So they thought we've got to do some more training. So they chose 1,200 users. They did a baseline campaign to see how bad or good their environment is, and did some more phishing and did some more training. And these are the results. So after the first 1,200 messages sent, a staggering 60% of users clicked on the message. 44% of them, clicked on a link, and 34 were successful. When I say successful, they actually put their username and password details in. So that then give them their sort of baselines. Okay, right, we now know roughly how bad or good our environment is. Here's the second campaign. So the second campaign is another email goes out, which looks a bit more targeted to some of the problems they've had in the past. An education email goes out. They created their own university landing page, which has information on cybersecurity, malware, how it affects your the life and your work. Cool video, and these are the results. So again, 1,200 emails went out. 40% clicked open the link. Sorry, 40% opened the message. 26 clicked the link, and 18% were successfully attacked. So actually, even though the results are still interesting, they're getting better. Now, the key to success to make this even more effective is doing the same thing, but actually doing what we call virtual classroom type training, where we're actually teaching the users, those ones that are unfortunately still clicking on those links, what cybersecurity essentials all around, providing education on the things to look for. So after we did a few more sessions with them, sent another campaign went out. 14% opened the message, 8% clicked on the link, and 4% were successfully attacked. And if you can compare that from the previous campaigns, so as you put from the second campaign, we had a 211 opened, which was a 49% improvement. But by the time they got to the end, sort of after about 7-month campaign, they had an 89% improvement, which is pretty decent once you think about what's actually happening. So that's it. It was just to give you a quick overview of 3 good use cases that we work with. Obviously, as you know, we're around the corner at the stand. We've got lots of other customers who'd like to share with you. And obviously, if you have any questions, please either come and see me now or later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt.